Welcome back to the studio for another episode. As you can see, today we have a very special guest with us, a hat maker's best friend and an excellent alarm system. This is Icelandic Sheepdog, which is kind of a rare breed. A plague destroyed over 75% of the breed in the late 19th century, and then again it was bordering extinction in the late 20th century. However, it managed to survive, and I've read that in 2022 there's about 5,000 Icelandic sheepdog worldwide. It's one of the few breeds that has an ancient origin, and they came to Iceland together with the Vikings. I found a breeder nearby, and I just had to go there and find out more about the breed. And since this is my first dog that I'm taking care of, it's rather special. I'm actually part Swedish, part Icelandic myself, and that's why this type of breed is something that I can relate to. Now he's turning 18 months very soon, and it's a very misunderstood breed as they actually mature very late. He needs a lot of attention and training to show him what's good behavior, etc. And as you can see now, this is actually a very calm state for him. We used to live in a city environment, and it turned out to be too stressful for him, and even for us. So I can really understand how he reacted to all the cars and seeing a lot of people, and then watching all the birds at the same time. And now that we're here in the countryside, it's much more relaxing for him and for us. The Icelandic sheepdog is a herder dog, so they have it in them to protect sheep from predator animals, from big birds, etc. And that's every time he sees a plane or a big bird, he will start yelling at it uncontrollably and start to chase it away. He's a lot of fun having around, and it's definitely not a dog breed for someone who's working away from home all the time. So for us, it's perfect because I have my studio at home, and I can teach him and keep an eye on him all the time. And it's a good distraction. It's good to have someone around. And it's good for me also to get out more, take a walk with him and get some fresh air, exercise, etc. So now I'm working on assembling the brim binding before putting the final stitches around the edge. It's kind of an art to make it stick evenly around the brim before you actually make the stitches. When I first started to make these bound edges around the brim, it was really difficult to get it even and smooth, and it took a lot of practice, and to find the correct technique really took a lot of time and effort. And it just looks amazing. I love bound edge on a brim, and I can make this in various widths. So you can have it all the way from a thin 4mm binding up to 16mm wide binding. And it's not only a nice decoration for finishing the brim, it's also very functional because it also protects the brim in the long run. It also stabilizes the brim, so if you want to have a specific shape to the brim, then it helps to keep it that way. Because if you have a raw edge without the binding, as the felt gets a little bit softer over time, it can get a little bit uncontrollable. And this is just a really nice way to keep it the way you want it to. Because you can have a really stiff felt, but after a while the brim might still be reshaped by use. Like every time you touch the brim, you pinch it, or you wear the hat in the rain and the felt get wet, you tend to reshape the brim by with your hands, and the brim binding actually helps to keep it the way you want it to. But also there, it can be reshaped by touch. It's worth to mention that the dog is not tied to anything. He has the leash on, and that's mainly because I want to be able to catch him if he starts to run away. I mean, we are actually in a closed space, but if someone should open the door, then I do want to have a chance to catch him before he tries to escape. And they are prone to escape, just because they are very keen to explore the world. We don't have a complete fence around the property, and that's why it's important to make sure he doesn't run away from us to and get hurt. It's not only the brim binding that takes a lot of time, it's also the preparation before you can actually start the binding. And for me, watching this, it's I just realize how long time everything takes. Because when I'm doing this, for me, just time flies. It's I can sit down for 2 3 hours and then suddenly it feel like 10 minutes just passed. And I hope this also helps to explain why I would have to charge extra for a bound edge brim, because it does take it requires extra work and it takes longer time. And I don't really want to do this on a sewing machine either, because there's a risk of the stitching being uneven and then you have to start again, and you can actually damage the hat by the machine, etc. So for me, this is the ideal way of working, and I love it. And spending time on this is not a problem. And once this step is finished, then it's on to the next hat. We just came back from our lunch break. We took a walk and played a bit outside. And now it's time for him to relax. We had a lot of difficulties with this in the past, that he wouldn't even relax in and just lay down in a place, because it's a very high energy breed, and also because the city life was making him too stressed, so it's difficult for him to calm down. But now it's actually working pretty much better than before. There are a lot of other dogs in the area where we live. So as soon as one dog barks, everybody else is just following along. So it's like a choir of dogs yelling at each other. But it's a very good training opportunity for him, and the entire environment here is good for his training, and it helps us to teach him a lot of things. But it still takes a lot of time, though. You have to be very persistent and patient, just like with hat making. Patience is a key. Here I'm finishing up the ribbon around the crown of the hat, and it also takes a lot of time. It's a lot of stitching that needs to be placed in various places to make it look very, very smooth. And this is one of the things on the hat that you can actually customize in many different ways, and it's always fun to discover a new way of making the ribbon and the bow, because there's like so many styles that have been used in the past, and every time I discover something new, I just have to try it out. But sometimes you tend to stick to similar styles for several hats that you make, and it's just because some of them are so iconic for the time period that you want to recreate. I find it very important to stitch the bow in certain places, and I've seen other companies doing this in a very shortcut style. I've seen actually the bow being stapled onto the felt, and that's just ridiculous. Even actually using sticky tape to attach at the back, and that's just horrific. There shouldn't be, and there are no shortcuts to making a great hat. Now, the behavior of an Icelandic sheepdog is very stubborn, and once they start barking, it's very difficult to get them to stop. It's very Icelandic, for sure.
It will never be enough! I only want to hear Yaya Ding Dong!
even though we have an alarm system for the house and for the studio, the dog is actually the perfect alarm system because he will alert us on everything. And so far we have not been woken up in the middle of the night, but it's bound to happen. This is just before his lunchtime, so he's telling me now that he's hungry. But he still has to wait a couple of minutes. I'm designing another workstation for this particular process, as I shouldn't be using the chair like this in the future. But it works well for now. You simply take what you have and use it. Whenever I find a chance, it's good to do some training with him. Just something simple and repeated all the time. This is the Western hat that I was remaking. If you remember this from the first episode or perhaps second episode, I can't remember. But I reshaped the crown and made it a little bit taller. And you see there's actually a segment around the crown at the bottom towards the brim. It's miscolored and there is still some glue attached to it from where they actually attached the bow around the crown. So I cleaned this up as much as possible and tried to sand away any residue of glue, etc. And now finally it's time to make the brim even all the way around. And originally the brim was really poorly made. It was actually cut uneven in some places, and it wasn't even straight. Um, and I'm not even taking off much from the felt. I'm just making sure it's consistent all the way around. And this machine or tool is called a rounding jack, and it just helps to make sure that I cut evenly all the way around. Sometimes you actually have to pass the hat a couple of times because of the thickness of the felt, and also I think the knife on this one is getting pretty dull, so I need to change it soon. But it's also one of the most important tools to have as a hat maker, because this one just makes things much more easier, and it's a lot of fun to use. And making sure the brim width is what I wanted it to be all the way around. The felt on this hat is just amazing, so happy to give it a new life, and I hope someone will love it. In some places of the crown, the manufacturer actually have sanded it too much. Um, but yeah, any small discrepancy of the felt I will definitely show later. But it just adds a little bit to the distressed old look of the hat, of course. Even though I'm not a fan of distressing hats, because I think they should be worn and used, and the distress of the hat should be part of your life, that you experience something and you experience it together with the hat, of course, and it will show. The fascination for Western hats is just really until recently. I started to explore more and more of this felt, and I've seen more hats like these in movies and TV series, etc. And I think they're actually quite amazing. I had trouble in the past making Western hats because the material is so stiff, and it's it was difficult at the time to know how you should shape them correctly. But since I learned how to, it's becoming a lot of fun, actually. And come to think of it, I think the first ever hat that I saw and loved on TV was actually from Clint Eastwood. I mean, watching his spaghetti westerns were really amazing to see as a kid, and the hats look really, really cool. So expect to see more Western hats in the future, because I really want to explore this style in the future. So time to attach the sweatband to this hat. And because I'm working on so many hats at the same time, I probably do this part every day. So there's always a sweatband going into a hat, etc. And I think my total amount of hats that I'm working on is actually just increasing because of the space that I have now. It's such a wonderful thing to actually be working on many things at the same time and to have more hats being finished. And even though this looks very repetitive, it's actually a lot of fun, and I'm pretty much relaxed in this state. It's just really amazing, and time, like I said before, it just flies. And that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this video. So me and the Icelandic Sheepdog thank you for your time, and please like, share, subscribe, and ask some questions if you'd like. See you next time.